Hey everyone, this is Coach Phoenix.
And I'm Coach Gina.
And this is Toast with the Coaches. Cheers.
Cheers. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Perspective, the show where we drink non-alcoholic drinks this time and talk about life, the universe, and all that other jazz.
And again, I'm Coach Phoenix, founder and CEO of Role Model Life Coaching. At Role Model Life Coaching, we partner with our clients to navigate down the road of life toward their model self. If you're interested, check the link below.
Definitely recommend him. And I'm Coach Gina. I am a certified life coach and founder of Clear Focus Coaching. At Clear Focus Coaching, we specialize on boundaries coaching and women empowerment. To find out more, check out the link below or visit clearfocuscoaching.com.
So before I raise my toast, like Coach Gina mentioned earlier, this show, because our guest is our first teenage guest, we do not promote underage drinking. So we have non-alcoholic drinks today, but I'm still fancy, so I'm gonna pour it in my flute. So
you can always have fun without drinking alcohol. Let's just say that. Make it fancy, stick some fruit in there, and you're good to go.
Exactly. Be the life of your own party. So at this time, I would like to raise a toast. I would like to raise a toast to a high school senior whose courage and mindset that's light years beyond her age. This young lady is not your ordinary teenager. No. Only 17 years old, she is an author, editor, activist, and creator of Amazon's #1 new release and bestseller, Black Girl, White School, Thriving, Surviving, and No, You Can't Touch My Hair. Columbus' own Olivia Clarke. Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to the show. What an introduction at such a young age. Honestly, that is an amazing introduction for anyone at any age, but especially a teenager. That is amazing.
Absolutely. At 17 years old. How are you doing, and welcome?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a crazy last 2 years. I started writing a book when I was 15, so it's been about 2 years since I started.
Oh, wow. What prompted you to start that book? First of all, can you tell us what the book is about?
Yeah, for sure. So Black Girl, White School is an anthology. So it has an introduction by me, and then I introduce each chapter of the book. But throughout the book, there are different, poems, stories, anecdotes, essays, etc., from other Black girls who have attended predominantly white institutions or currently do. A lot of them are actually students currently. And so the purpose of the book is first and foremost to provide camaraderie and support for Black girls who are in those environments, who either are stepping into them, it's their first year, they don't know what to expect, or who are already there and need that extra boost of confidence, of understanding. And secondly, it's supposed to provide insight for predominantly white institutions, for faculty, administrators, even parents, or people who work in those environments in general, just to understand what their Black girls and their Black students are going through.
Wow. So I guess my question would be Gina's first question, and what prompts you to write that at an early age, at the age of 16, correct?
Yes, I published it when I was 16. I've been going to a PWI since 6th grade, and I'm a senior.
I'm sorry, what's a PWI for those who don't know that acronym?
A predominantly white institution. And so that can be in education, it could be workplaces, anywhere. Okay. So I'm currently a second semester senior, almost graduating, but this has been my experience for a while. So the idea came to me actually by accident. I was walking home with my mom one day because I live close to my school. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if someone made a book or a series of essays or something to help Black girls who are in these situations, because a lot of times there might be only like 5 of us in a grade, or depending on how big your school is, 5 in the whole school. So I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. And she just looked at me and was like, okay, write it. And so then I did.
One dude, yeah.
Props to your mom. That's awesome.
Yeah. You was like, what? Challenge on. I'm going to do it.
Right. I have a broad problem with procrastination. So it took me about half a year before I actually started writing it. But then between when I started and when I finished, it took me about a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of things less important that I've procrastinated on for 6 months or longer. So like you're like, I procrastinated, and I'm like, oof, got some stuff to get done. So can you speak to, you were saying that it would be educational, especially for the faculty, for parents, and very supportive for Black girls. Is it also for Black girls and also like women of color as well, or specifically Black?
The book is specifically written by and for Black girls, but a lot of the things and a lot of the themes in there actually touch on women of color in general in these institutions. And a lot of these instances where you may have to change Black to something else, Black to Asian, Black to Latina. But a lot of those experiences are similar between, and I know that because me and my friends, we all talk about, we're a pretty diverse group of friends. But a lot of these situations I talk about, you may have to change a couple of things here or there, but you can relate to for a lot of women of color, and also Black boys in white schools as well. My little brother goes to a PWI. I have a lot of friends who go to PWIs who are guys, and a lot is the same as well.
Okay. So what experiences did you encounter that you feel that needs to be spoke about and to be acknowledged?
I feel like a lot of the issues that arise happen because of lack of education, and kids are mean. I mean, in general.
but what issues is one of, I'm like what?
I'd say microaggressions are a big thing. Talking about, even with the title, like, no, you can't touch my hair. A lot of just reaching out and grabbing and I'm just standing there. Things like that. Also, one thing we see a lot is, back to the education thing, a lot of people call it the zombie head turn, when like something like slavery comes up and then all of a sudden everyone turns and looks at the Black students. Things like that. That's a lot of things that are talked about in the book. Also issues of self-esteem, when everyone is white and the standard is white where you are and you're not, you get that sense of, oh, well, something's wrong with me, especially when you're younger. I mean, in high school, I see that less, but in elementary school and middle school, everyone wants to fit in middle school because it's horrible. So there's no need to make it worse. And so I see a lot of that as well.
Mm.
That's really, I don't know, that's just, like Phoenix said earlier, kind of you being beyond your years, for you to have that wisdom to say, absolutely, I'm experiencing this and other people are experiencing this. And I want to go kind of outside my experience to bring this hope and this love to other people and say, like you said, like you want to just fit in, and to say like you're not alone is really, really beautiful. So I really applaud you for taking the step to do that and then doing it. Also, not just having the idea, but doing it. That's absolutely amazing.
Can we raise a toast to that?
Yes, that deserves a toast. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
It's amazing. So since your book has been released, how long has it been out at this point? It was released in 2020?
Yes, it was released in August of 2020, the 25th. I believe, maybe the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a couple of months.
Yeah. What impact have you seen, or what feedback have you received so far from the people?
Besides the accolades and achievement of being Amazon's #1 bestseller and new release. So congratulations.
Yeah. Cheers to that too. We're gonna have so many cheers this episode.
As a 16-year-old, that's amazing.
A lot of the feedback has been really positive. And so that's something that I'm really grateful for. In my own community, specifically at school, a lot of my friends were the first ones to buy the book when it was still in pre-sale, and they've been really supportive. I've had the opportunity to connect with a lot of Black girls across the country, talking about their experiences. I've had several reach out to me, on Instagram and my DMs and things like that. I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple different school groups and working on that as well, still doing those. And so that has been my favorite part, being able to talk to the girls who I'm actually trying to help. I've had a couple of really cool interactions. Issa Rae reposted my book and her Facebook, and
Oh, wow.
I had a
Well,
breakout. Yeah, I had a breakdown for about 24 hours. It was really cool. I'm now Instagram mutuals with Nick Stone, the author of Dear Martin. Just different things that have really bewildered me and I'm really happy about. But I think the number one thing has just been the connections I've been able to make.
that's awesome. And like, let's go back to where it all started. It started from like just a walk, a stroll, you having that mother-daughter conversation, and you say, hey, Mom, I have a problem. Your mother say, hey, come up with a solution. You came up with that solution, and now you're changing lives. So like, that's incredible.
Thank you. I've been really lucky. Both of my parents are authors too. So they were able to help me in my endeavors and trying to figure out how this works. Because it was a lot of work, a lot more than I expected when I first started.
So was that your path, or was that something? Did you want to follow in your parents' footsteps prior to writing this book, that you want to become an author?
My mom's book's about me. Well, not technically, it's not about me, but the character is named after me. So it's like, oh, that's really cool. So now I was fine with that for a while. And then I thought it was really cool, and I don't really know when it came, if it was kind of like I want to write a book, or if it just kind of showed up. But once I started, I was really excited because I was like, now it can be my dad's book, my mom's book, and mine on the shelf.
Talking about a legacy, absolutely. That is amazing. That's crazy.
Cool. I like that you guys can all like sign each other's books and like
Yeah.
the first edition signature. That's awesome. Do you think that made a difference for you? I feel like the answer is yes, but better question is, what difference do you think did it make to have your parents that you could look to who have already kind of blazed that path and that are authors? What difference do you think that played into you writing your own book?
I think it definitely made it go faster. I think I was able to put out a better product because of it, because I was able to have that influence and that guidance from someone who not only has already done it, because I'm sure I could reach out to other authors and things like that, but it being my parents and they know me and I know them, so it wasn't awkward. And being able to have that kind of connection, I think it was really, really helpful. I think it probably did make it faster. I mean, I was able to do it in a year with everything. It probably would have taken me 2. I probably would have just now been putting it out, or maybe this summer, but that was helpful because they had already gone through that. Also the public part of it, the criticism and things like that. Fortunately for me, it doesn't bother me. But if I was someone who that would have really bothered, like the criticism I've gotten and stuff like that, it definitely would have made a big difference to have my mom and dad who have already gone through that.
So Olivia, okay, so let me give you a scenario, right? Say that I am a young Black girl. Let's say I'm in middle school. So I'm about 12, 13. And I'm in a PWI. And, you know, at that age, you're one trying to identify yourself, all races. It doesn't matter. You're trying to create your identity or find your identity. 2, you're Black and trying to do that within a PWI. What would you tell? What would your advice be to that Black girl to how to stay grounded in her Blackness, but still create an identity that will be to where she's still popular and accepted in that institution, but she's still intact and connected with her community?
I would say that the number one thing that's important is self-care. Just making sure that you take care of your heart, you take care of your spirit, you make sure that you are grounded in yourself before you reach out and, you know, give your gifts to the rest of the world. Number one, that would start with being able to say no, being able to say that something makes you uncomfortable or that you don't like something without feeling like you need to give an explanation. This goes into if you or when you start doing activist work as well. A lot of times there are a lot of questions depending on no matter like what you're being an activist for, but for those who don't understand it or those who are outside that community, a lot of times there are a lot of questions. And so you may feel obligated to answer them when really they can Google it. I mean, if you want to respond, you can. If you want to explain, if you have that in you at the moment, you can. But a lot of times it's okay just to say, look it up. I don't really feel like it, because you're not a dictionary, you're a person. That's important. I'd say taking time, going back to the self-care thing, taking time away from the internet, taking time away from Twitter, Instagram, well, Snapchat, TikTok, well, depending on what's on your TikTok. It's not serious, but depending on who you follow, it might be serious. So middle school is a lot of times when people start using social media, and that can be overwhelming, especially if you keep up with the news and things like that. Especially, I mean, we've seen how in the last 4 weeks, every 6 seconds, it says breaking news. It's never just normal news. There's never a cat in a tree. There's always something crazy happening. So taking time to step away from that and just being grounded in yourself is really helpful. Mm-hmm. Also, as you're moving through high school, moving through middle school, moving through high school into college, just making sure that you know that you are fine the way you are. You don't need to try to pretend or try to copy someone else, see the girl who's the most popular in your grade, the people who you see always hanging out together, or they're always at, I don't know how many parties happen in middle school, but they're always at parties.
More than might should.
Probably. I don't remember all that much, but my school doesn't really have parties anyway. So, but depending on where you are, when I was in middle school, I spent a lot of time emulating the girls who I saw, who there aren't that many girls, so there's not enough to be popular, but the ones who had a grounded place in the community where I was still trying to build that as I was new. I spent a lot of time trying to emulate them,
Hold on, you said as you was new, so you didn't attend the PWI institution from kindergarten?
No. I started at Columbus City Schools from kindergarten through 5th grade.
Hold on. So for the audience and Gina, let me explain this to you because I'm also in Columbus, Ohio. So in Columbus, Ohio, it's unfortunate that this Columbus City schools, like most inner cities, lack resources, and the education do not compare to their counterparts in the outside suburbs, right? So she went from kindergarten to 5th grade in this in the Columbus City schools in the urban environment, to go into not just a PWI institution, a primarily white institution. She went to the PWI of Columbus and of the country. Is one of the top schools in the nation. So that was like a big jump and a big culture shock. I can imagine, Olivia, from going from kindergarten to 5th grade, being around your people, being around your culture, being connected with your people, to being put in this society where probably the kids was driving BMWs and all types of fancy cars. So how was that experience, and how do you stay grounded personally?
Education-wise, I was in the gifted program at my old school, so that was helpful, and it happened to be one of the, might have been number one, but it was one of the better ones in the CCS system. Okay. And then I went from there to 6th grade at my current school, and that's academically, it took me a little bit to get used to it, but it wasn't the main issue. The main issue was socially. Obviously no one was driving back then, but right now, like a couple of girls in my grade have Teslas. So wow. That's a big jump as their first car. So that's a big jump from.
What do you upgrade from that? Like, I feel like your first car should be a beater, and you learn with it, and you get in a couple minor accidents. You might hit a mailbox, and then you graduate, to a better car. Like, where do you go after a Tesla? Another Tesla?
I guess. One of the doors that fly up, maybe. But, from those are two very different ends of both the socioeconomic spectrum as well as just the social spectrum. so I spent a lot of time in middle school trying to emulate the girls I saw, which were all, I mean, sixth grade year, there were probably 10, no, that's too many, like 8 to 10 black girls in my grade.
In a class of how many? Yeah.
48, probably.
Wow.
Our grade was a little bit bigger back then, so maybe 50. But yeah, like 50 girls, maybe 10 black, total of 18 girls of color, probably, roughly around there. So yeah, going from there. So I spent a lot of times emulating the white girls I saw that were popular, that had a lot of friends. Looking back, they'd been there since they were born. So of course they had more friends than someone who just got there 2 minutes ago. But something that I learned was what I was trying to emulate a lot of times was emulating my own culture. The music they liked, I mean, back then, I don't think a lot of them were using AAVE, which is African American Vernacular English, which is what a lot of people, I mean, before that was a term, it was just called slang.
I was going to say, what the heck is that? I know what slang is. Your generation create acronyms and new words for everything. So what did you just say?
Phoenix, ours does too.
African American Vernacular English. A lot of times you'll see it as AAVE. It used to just be called slang, and then people would use Ebonics. That was the most recent thing. And now it's called AAVE because academically it's starting to be seen more as a language rather than, I guess people saw it more as a dialect before, but now it's really starting to be seen as a language. I mean, it has its own grammar structures, things like that. So that's something I talk about in the book as well, on that usage. But a lot of the time, what I was trying to emulate was emulating what I already grew up with. So moving into high school, I don't quite know when it switched, but at some point in freshman year, a switch went off in my brain. I was like, wait a minute. If I just be who I am, it's automatically what I was trying to do in the first place, almost. So
that reminds me of, are you a Harry Potter fan?
Yes.
So, Phoenix, I'm going to go outside your world into the nerddom for a second.
Okay,
there's a scene in one of the Harry Potter movies where the girl who plays Beatrix is pretending to be Hermione Granger, pretending to be Beatrix. Or Bellatrix, yes. So it's like this kind of like, you're trying to be someone that they're trying to pretend to be that you already are. So it's almost like this circular thing where it's like, wait a minute, just cut out the middleman and you're already there.
I'm Bellatrix and my school is Gringotts, I guess.
There you go. I guess. Yes, absolutely. Yes. If only.
So now I know what that means. Thanks for the nerd education. I appreciate it. So that's interesting, Olivia, because I think a lot of young black girls, especially, but young black men, young black individuals in general need to understand that it's cool to be black. Like, it's really, really cool to be black. And once you understand that, how cool it is to be black, you will see life in a whole different world, because you got to understand that, like you said, I didn't know that it went from slang, because that's what I called it. I know about Ebonics, but I felt like Ebonics was a joke that it was trying to clown the way we speak by using Ebonics. But now it seems like it's like more structure, and it has a true meaning and definition to it. So I really appreciate that. But if you listen to, like, I remember being in corporate meetings and I heard like a VP say, "It is what it is." I was shocked, like, it is what it is. Did I just come out of his mouth? Like, that's how we speak. And then I start to hear it more and more often that, like, our lingo, it now has become American culture. So before, what individuals used to clown us and say we like consider us less educated because the way we speak amongst ourselves now took that away from us again and became American culture, and now is accepted. It's so bizarre how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the conversations people are having a lot more about cultural appropriation, talking about how when a person of color, really anybody who's not white in America, they bring that culture with them, they're clowned for it, they're bullied for it in schools, they're seen as not educated, or it's too exotic. It's no. But then as soon as it shows up in a Kardashian video.
Yo, I was just about to say that when the Kardashians start wearing braids and different color hair. I remember
braids. And then colored wigs are no longer ghetto. Now they're high fashion and things like that. And so
extensions and everything else. Oh, man.
So then, I mean, that's one thing we're seeing. Gen Z is known for being kind of out of pocket and but a lot of being like really trying to be like an activist generation almost. But one thing that you see sometimes is, I remember Twitter was talking about how AAVE slang, people were referring to it as Gen Z language, when really all Black people have been speaking like that since forever. But now that it's starting to be adopted into popular American culture, you see that assimilation of Black culture and American culture, which you see throughout history all the time we've been here. And with the AAVE, now people are starting to see Black kids as multilingual, because when the way you might talk with your friends, with your family, with your aunts, uncles, versus the way that you write an AP paper are different. It's just like how like Mandarin Chinese is different than Cantonese. I mean, they're two separate languages still existing in the same area. They have similar words, but they're different languages, things like that. So that's the thing that's really interesting. And I'm really excited to see how like the educational diaspora starts looking at Black kids as being multilingual instead of not speaking English correctly. Because if we think about, none of us speak English correctly. Like, even people who
what even is English? Let's be honest.
It doesn't make sense. No, it's just a hodgepodge of Latin and other languages. So no one really speaks it correctly. Textbook.
Classic Americans stealing a bunch of stuff from a bunch of other cultures. I want to ask both of you, because I've had this question myself, as I pointed out in previous episodes, obviously white. How do you feel about non-Black people picking up that lingo? Do you feel that that's cultural appropriation? Because I find myself and my friends too, like you said, like picking up those words instead of saying like, I'm going to ask you a question. And it's like, can I ask you something? Like we start picking up those language, not to make fun of it, but it literally just becomes part of how we talk. Do you find that to be appropriation, or is that like, hey, awesome, my culture is starting to spread more and people are starting to respect it? Or how does that feel for you?
I think it differs for everyone, but there's like a kind of common ground that there's a difference between someone picking up a word that like how when your friend says something and then all of a sudden you start saying it too and you're like, oh no, how did I pick this up? Like I did that with my friend. She's Chinese, and so she says "aya" a lot, which is just kind of like an exclamation. And so then I picked it up, and my sister looked at me. She was like, "What?" Because both of us say Chinese. She was like, "You don't even." And so things like that. But there's a difference between like that and when people start using it and then kind of put on this Black caricature as well, where you see versus saying like, "It is what it is," and then that's just a phrase you say. Versus saying it is what it is, and then you start adding a certain tone to it, and you start moving your head, and you say it weird, and then it just kind of sounds awkward, and you're like, what are you saying? Also, when terms are used incorrectly, because just like a language, I mean, there's a right way to use words, and there's a wrong way to use words. So when terms and phrases are used incorrectly, then that's awkward, because it just sounds like if you started using weird grammar in Spanish and you're like, what are you talking about? And then the third thing is always when something comes into popular culture and then eventually people get tired of it who aren't from that culture. And then it's, oh, that's so 2017. Well, actually, it's been around since forever.
Our whole life, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you're telling Black people, don't use that term. That was 2018. But I'm like, that's all I grew
like
up
your
with.
culture kind of becomes a fad,
Right.
rather than
Until it's no longer, you commercialize it until it's no longer profitable, and then you move on to the next thing. That's the issue. But when people just pick things up from their friends, and they don't try to make themselves into that like Black caricature, I don't see any issue with it.
I like that explanation a lot. I think that clarifies things. Yeah, that was just really well said. Thank you for saying that. I also want to circle back because we've had a lot of really great points throughout this conversation. And I wanted to point out earlier, you were talking about looking to your parents who are authors and having them kind of be representations of what was possible for you and having them support you in your path towards becoming an author yourself. And I wanted to point out, one of Phoenix's specialties is, like he has behind him for the people who can't see, role model, right? It's the people who model the road, model the path that you want to go down. And then you also spoke about in your self-care, you essentially described boundaries, right? And also what you're doing is female empowerment. And I want to point that out because Phoenix and I are both like almost twice your age. We are twice your age. We're twice your age. And it has taken us a very long time to get to the points where we're at, to figure out that those things are very important, not only for ourselves, but also for our cultures. And it is so admirable to see you already doing this, already walking that path, already living those examples. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Not to embarrass you, but I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
Yeah, I think it also helps that I'm an older sister. I mean, I have a little sister who's 13 and a younger brother who is 11. That took me too long to figure out, but who's 11. So knowing that my little sister goes to the same school as I do. She started in 6th grade as well. My brother's a 6th grader, so he started in a PWI this year. And so knowing my own experiences and trying to help them sometimes a little too much through, their experience has also helped me kind of have a different perspective almost, because I do have that connection with them and then also the underclassmen that I'm friends with. And I do a lot of stuff with diversity at school. I'm the president of Diversity Club and the Student Diversity Executive Board. So with that, I do a lot of work with the middle school and the lower school. Not so much with the PYC. That's ages 3 to 4 or 3 to 5. But with the elementary school and the middle school, I do a lot of work with them too. So that has helped me kind of take on a mentor capacity or mental headspace to try to help me. While I was writing the book, I thought about it. And as I write the next ones, or however many go next.
So you were just saying, you were hinting, so I think that's a good segue. You are a senior this year, you mentioned earlier. What's next for you in the future? Are you going on to college? Are you writing more books? Both? What's your plan for the future?
Both. First and foremost, before I do any more writing, I want to graduate. Graduation is in May. I have 18 weeks and a couple hours before graduation. I have a countdown on my computer and everything.
You're ready.
So
that's what college you're going to?
Not yet. Hopefully, I'll end up in New York. My top school right now is Columbia, followed by U Chicago. I like UCLA. I got a couple that I like. I'll be double majoring in Black Studies, African American Diaspora Studies, depending on what the program's called, and East Asian Studies with a focus on Korean. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited to be able to study those.
Just some small schools and some casual degrees. It's, it sounds like you're starting out very, very, very simple, not really having a path, she said sarcastically.
Exactly. So with that major, how will that major contribute to the next step after college? Have you thought that far into your future?
Sort of. If possible, I want to graduate in 3 years, but with a double major, that'll probably be really difficult, and I'll probably still be 4. But I do want to spend some time. I currently am learning 4 languages, or 3. I've been learning Spanish for 7 years, so I speak that pretty well. Self-taught myself Korean for the last 2 years, and I'm taking Mandarin right now. So after college, I'm going to spend some time, traveling, doing that kind of stuff, working abroad. No idea how that's going to work out, but for the Black Studies area, I want to write a couple more books. I'm going to do one for Black boys in white schools. I want to do one for elementary students and kindergarten when they're really little, things like that. And then after I graduate, maybe one for college and for the workforce. So we'll see.
That's
so awesome. I'm looking forward to your next books. I'm definitely going to go out and buy your book now. I have a 2-year-old son that I think could definitely benefit from, even like you said, just the education of what his friends are going through and what challenges they're facing. And me as a parent, who hopefully sends him to a diverse school and he has, friends of all different walks of life. So I appreciate that perspective and the ability to just go out and buy it and read it. I love that.
Yeah, same here. Same here. So I have a question, right? When I was about 30, so about 8 years ago, I used to tell myself, when my children have children, I feel like that generation is going to be the generation where like racism is not really a thing, right? So that was 8 years ago. We live in a society now that racism is like at an all-time, not at an all-time high, but like it's pretty heavily prevalent in our communities in America right now. And I know in my mind, I think it's predominantly on the generation before us and our generation. What it sounds like to me and what I see from television and speaking to my children is that your generation, the Generation Zers, is the generation where racism is not really a thing. You're seeing more interracial relationships, more acceptance of the LGBTQI plus community. So I just wanted, from your perspective as a 17-year-old and being a Generation Zer, what are your perspective on like how racism play a part in your generation and the future of our country?
I think Gen Z, there's a lot, we're younger, and so we're just getting started in this stuff, so we still have a lot of fire behind us. So we're a lot more likely to like call out something or stuff like that. I do think that racism is still very prevalent in our generation. Fortunately for me, that's not really the circles I run in, but going to a predominantly white institution and having connections to the ones, around Columbus, around the greater Columbus area, there definitely is a good amount. There is enough because, for one, we still live with our parents. So their parents are still passing down racist rhetoric, racist sentiments, homophobic sentiments, etc., down to them. So while a lot of us are old enough to start making our own decisions and we're getting our own information and things like that, that does not always make you more tolerant, depending on what side of the internet you're on. Unfortunately, I don't think my kids are going to grow up in a world without racism. Hopefully, it will be better. That's what we're always working for, always working to make it better for the next generation. These last couple of years have shown just how deeply saturated our communities and our culture is in white supremacy and in racism. We're working on it. I'm working on it, doing our best to do our part. I think one thing is just it's the safest it's ever been to be out, not that rich, white, heterosexual male named Bob it's the same as it's been to not be that person, which is why I think you see a lot more of, like you said, like interracial dating in our generation. You see a lot more openly out LGBTQ people. You see a lot more trans women and men who are being able to start transitioning the younger when they're still living with their parents, because parents are starting to be more accepting, things like that. I think we're on our way. I think it's silly to think that we should stop doing the work because it'll figure out on itself or that we're past it. But I think we are on our way, and I'm hopeful. Hopeful, yes. We're just going to keep going. So I think it is a lot easier. I think we're a lot more accepting. I think a lot more of us we have greater access to more information at a younger age. I think that's helpful a lot, especially so that those minority communities are able to express themselves through different platforms, whether that be, TikTok, a simple Google search, anything you're doing. I think that's helpful with creating inclusive environments, as well as, the calls to action, the protests and things like that we see constantly that are able to be taken to the streets and to the internet and through things like that. So I think things are moving. That's the good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would just want to put it out there, audience, if you haven't noticed this yourself, is you're 17. So I have to keep reminding myself that I am speaking to a teenager. You're very well-spoken, very professional, and have an awesome personality. And your achievements is, again, beyond your years. So I'm really, really impressed with you, young lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really good point to be made too, that you should never discount somebody for any reason, for their race, for their gender, for their socioeconomic standing, for, age, anything, because as we can see, there are people who are out there doing that work and who are able to speak so eloquently, and there's probably a lot more of them than you would think are out there. Just parrot what Phoenix said. I'm equally as impressed, and I'm really looking forward to the impact that you continue to make in society as you grow older, because I think that it's people like you and your generation, sharing information and being educated and being connected that is making these differences.
I think us being young and tech savvy kids with all this access has allowed us to not do a lot more. I don't want to discredit the work that generations before us have done, obviously, but it does allow us to do a little by little, starting at a younger age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts a lot earlier, and I feel like a lot faster too, to do the work.
Absolutely. And I haven't met your mother or your father, but I just want to raise a toast to your parents, because they have done an amazing job with you. So cheers to Mom Dukes.
Are they sitting with you? Are they off screen? Are they hearing us cheers to them?
My mom's over there. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. You can take glass too.
Thank you.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So what's next? What's next in the future? I know graduation is the priority in college, getting into college and seeing what school you accepted to. I'm pretty sure you'd be accepted to all of your schools and you have the choice. So you got this. You got this.
They're going to be competing for you.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as like from a personal standpoint, from what Olivia wants in life, what's next in the future? I know you said about self-care and things of that nature. What are you doing to better you?
Two things I really want to do in the next, couple of months. I want to keep doing the talks I've been doing with, younger Black girls and stuff, because that's my favorite part. And I really, really enjoy it. And I want to do as much as I can before I have to worry about I'm in college and now I'm in charge of my own time. And I also, as far as self-care goes, after tomorrow, I'm gonna watch the inauguration, and I'm just gonna chill out for a week. I'm just gonna take a nice series of naps. That's the direct next thing for Olivia.
That is probably the best plan that I have ever heard. I am with you. I would love to join you on that plan.
Good.
I agree. You definitely need time to rest your brain and regroup. So get away from the madness.
Well, Olivia, it has been an absolute joy talking to you. Seriously,
Thank you.
You have shared so much wisdom and so much beauty with us tonight. And we just really appreciate you spending our time, which I'm sure is limited with all of the work that you've been doing. We appreciate you spending your time with us and yeah, just sharing, again, a non-alcoholic drink and hanging out.
Thank you so much. Oh, and to anyone listening, you can find the book on Amazon. It also has a pairing journal for Black girls and a pairing journal for allies.
We have the link down below for any of you watching on YouTube. Quick link, just click it, go, instant buy, instant buy, instant buy.
Exactly. And if you're part of any nonprofit organization, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, PWI institutions, please reach out to her and have her come speak to your kids and your groups to so she could give you all her perspective on what life is like coming from a young Black girl in those institutions.
You can reach me at Olivia V.G. Clarke, Clarke, on Twitter and Instagram.
Boom, boom, hit her up. But Olivia, before you go, this is my favorite part of the show. So my favorite part of the show is what we call our Thing of the Week. My Thing of the Week is where we provide our audience with either a quote or some type of inspiration that inspire us that we would like to pass on to our audience until they see us the following week. So without further ado, my Thing of the Week is this. My Thing of the Week comes from a mindset that I learned while I was in the United States Army. One day I was an officer, and one day I was passing a sergeant. So when you're an officer and there's an enlisted soldier, there's a rank structure. So an enlisted soldier is supposed to salute any officer that walks past. So when I walked past, the soldier walked right past me, and he didn't salute me. So in my mind, I'm like, don't worry about it. He probably was thinking about something. He just forgot, whatever. I'm just going to let it go. Well, a senior officer observed it and pulled me to the side and was like, hey, Lieutenant, why did you allow that to happen? I was like, I explained some of this, what I just explained to you all, like, hey, I wasn't taking it that serious. He said, every time that you walk past something that's wrong or something that you need to correct, you creating a new standard. I'm like, how so? He said, because now that because you didn't say anything to him and you knew it was wrong, when he's seeing the next officer, he's not going to salute him. So in his mind, that's the standard that he don't salute. And that's not the standard of the Army. So my Thing of the Week is for you all to understand the standard of your life. If you're uncomfortable with things and it's against your values, stand up for it. Say something. Do what Olivia did. Write a book. Become an activist. Talk about it. But don't let individuals do wrong and you watch and you're observing it, because you're creating new standards, and that's not the standards of our country, and that's not the standards of your life. Coach Phoenix, role model mindset. Coach Gina.
I love it. Set a precedent. Set a precedent through your actions, through your words. It's absolutely inspirational. So my Thing of the Week is a quote from my favorite book, The Little Prince, which goes, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What's essential is invisible to the eye." I interpret that to mean the things that we see physically aren't always the most important things. It is the things that we feel with our heart, with our soul. And it is the things that Olivia saw, that she felt, that inspired her to change the world, to write a book, to reach out to countless individuals, because she saw with her heart what needed to be changed. And that is absolutely amazing. And like I said, beautiful. I can't say it enough how much of a joy it has been speaking with you. So thank you so much for singing with your heart and being the change you wanted to see in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Olivia, thank you. Audience, thank you as well. We see you again next week. Coach Gina, Coach Phoenix, Coach with the Coaches. We out. Cheers.
Cheers.